Hi, this is Steffy and welcome to the FinancialFox. Today is a panel discussion and I have Brian Bystriansky, Managing Director and Co-founder of Emeldi Group and EMG Coin. Mark is a regular on our show, so probably you know what it does already. And joining us is Toby Rush, CEO and co-founder of Redeem. Redeem is offering amazing tools and amazing interface as well for brands to get into Web3. So obviously the topic is about entering Web3, is about user experience, is about adoption, and also is also about NFT utility, which is kind of like a big deal because, you know, you are a Web2 company, right? I want to get into Web3, I do an NFT drop, but what is really the utility? Why I need to use blockchain? And also what are the regulatory implications and what brands should look at? We talk about SuperApps as well, which are very interesting concept, very popular in Asia. I mean, we know about WeChat, but what about the Western country? What is about the concept of super app that is quite exciting, but also difficult to get integrated in certain countries, and perhaps what could be the way to see that, the appeal of a super app. Anyway, I'm going along too much, and this was a great conversation, so make sure that you watch it until the end. But before we get into the show, remember, if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, click the subscribe button now and follow us on social media to stay up to date with our news and interviews. Okay, Toby, Mark, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. How are you all doing?
Doing great. Glad to be here and excited to have a conversation.
Yeah, also same here. Really glad to be here and looking forward to it.
Fantastic. So we are all going to be talking about Web3 adoption, user experience, brand venture in Web3, how we can help this transition or this integration between Web2 to Web3 from a brand perspective, but also from a user perspective as well. You both have got some very interesting project, and perhaps let's start with a short introduction of obviously yourself and your project before we dive into the 10 question. Okay. Toby, you want to start?
Sure. No, happy to give a little background. So, serial entrepreneur. I say I must love pain because I keep coming back and doing it again. This is my third startup from scratch. All of them have used some pretty cutting edge technologies, but leveled at consumer experience, ease of use. It's like taking steps out of the process, right? How do you use advanced technologies to make things seamless, convenient, simple? My previous company was actually kind of in the biometrics and identity space, which we sold to Alibaba over in China, where I ran biometrics and identity for them for a couple of years. So spent a lot of time in China, India, Indonesia, Philippines, where user experience and mobile connectivity were absolutely critical, right? Because a lot of these folks had never done payments, they'd never seen a lot of these complexities. So really cut my teeth there, both in the kind of the payments, the mobile, and kind of the usability world. They asked me to move over to the investments team with a specific focus on blockchain. So when I started really looking at blockchain, it was from, in China, cryptocurrencies and Bored Apes are not a thing. So it was all about, hey, what are how does blockchain make business better, faster, stronger, more convenient, more efficient? So that's always been my lens coming in. And left Alibaba mid-late 2019. About a year and a half ago, came back in and was fascinated by just Web3, in particular NFTs, as utility, right? So NFTs not as something that you can, purchase and hope they go up in value and be able to flip them, but really, how does data live in an open ecosystem and yet remain absolutely trusted? Right? That's exactly what this NFT protocol and these blockchain allow you to do. So you're not stuck behind a Google, Facebook, Apple, and these firewalls where you don't have access to this information, because then you lose the innovation, the composability, and so many things. So I'll get into a little bit here, kind of what we're doing with Redeem, but kind of we see ourselves as really, how do we kind of unlock this opportunity around both digital experiences as well as ownership, but for the masses.
Brilliant. Mark, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I mean that's just to jump on that. Yeah, if we use the words NFTs and maybe even crypto in the telecom industry, we're sort of get half the industry looking the other way. So we have to be careful. Not careful, but I mean it's sort of it's a shame that it's associated with maybe some of the bad apples within the industry and Web3. But we're a telco software service company. We've been providing for telecommunication to the telecommunications sector for over 15 years. We have an omni-channel solution, which is all the customer-facing channel that a user would, when they go online to buy some product services from major telco brands like T-Mobile, Deutsche Telekom, O2, Telefonica has some MVNOs like Tesco Mobile and so on. And we've branched out to the Web3 space where we're offering all of that inside of an app with integrated third-party apps, digital wallet, non-custodial token to be used within the ecosystem for all the users to get used to earn kind of concept, 5% or 10% discounts on some cases for every transaction that they do. And they're saving on data. They're able to have video calls like we are right now, and then be able to instantly send and receive money, which is kind of cool. And also, everyday life, if they have some kind of apps, which is like for the bus or for the train, for ticketing or services, they'll be able to use that within the super app and also get 5% earning on that if they use the token. So it's the whole, average family could save maybe 15% from their daily usage. And I think that's really important to have something that you can actually use in everyday life. And with bring the Web 2 to Web 3. This is what we're trying to do within the telecom industry.
Okay, that's brilliant. So let's start with a more general question, because I have a few be more controversial, but let's leave them for later. From a brand perspective, right? From a well-established Web 2 company or Web 2 brand, and then I see all these things happening with blockchain, crypto, AI, right? Why should I embrace Web3, and what is the mindset or approach I should take to Web3 to make sure that I'm not just running the hype and I'm going to do an NFT drop, but then, actually, what are you trying to do? So, Toby, you work with brands. So tell me from a brand perspective, what is the correct approach? And then maybe, Mark, you can add on that, because you are kind of building an ecosystem around,
Sure.
NFT, around blockchain. Then you can also add your insight as well.
Sure.
Yeah, so as we think about kind of working with brands, working really for any young company, like one of the axioms we have is that behavior change is hard. Is really, really hard. Mental models are ridiculously hard. So I think one of the challenges we've had as an industry is we start with education, and I think we should start with experiences, right? To start with something of value, right? So we start by saying, hey, come learn about this really cool deep technology. And people are like, just get me to the experience. Like, let me start engaging. Let me see something that is interesting and fun, and I'll learn it as we go. So kind of our approach is taking something that already exists. It's kind of globally deployed. So our approach at Redeem is, leverage the 6.8 billion smartphones that are already deployed all over the world. They all have a globally unique number already associated to them, being their phone number. We know of this globally unique directory system, our number off the top of our head. Every one of our friends are already in our phone. We already have a messaging app used to communicate. We're using text messaging or WhatsApp, or if we're in China, it's WeChat, or if it's in line, or Kakao. We already have these messaging apps. All of our phones have a browser. The vast majority also have biometrics. So if we were to take these existing mental models, behaviors, and use cases from a user perspective, then we wrap all that and say, how do we then allow brands to be able to plug it in, not just to the traditional Web3, but their old school Web 2, using an authentication framework called OAuth, right? So instead of log in with Google or Facebook or Apple or these other apps, like you can literally log in with your phone, right? But then what we're doing is allowing that to be attached to various Web3 wallets, right? And so when you're doing that, your phone is such a beautiful thing that can span the physical to the digital to the metaverse. It can go from, all of your apps that are running are going to be accessing that via the mobile device. And so kind of leveraging kind of these existing infrastructures to make it really simple. So when we're working with brands to say, meet people where they're at, get them direct to engagement, right? The absolute fewest minimum of steps, time, and effort to get to value. When they experience value, they stay and they want more. So we do things like again, being very mobile based, very web based. Don't make them download a new app. Don't make them go and get a whole new wallet. So we try to really eliminate a lot of those steps to be able to kind of get to value. The things that they're doing, quite honestly, the industry is still trying to figure out. I don't think we've nailed the killer use case, right? That's why we're seeing such kind of a start and stop experience. I mean, everybody's kind of looking, hey, look, what's Starbucks doing? What's Nike doing? What's Adidas doing? What's Reddit doing? And those are great. We love those. Those are good. But I think because we haven't really nailed the use case that can span all sizes of companies, all sizes of brands, we're still struggling with it. I got a couple other ideas I can share later of things that people are doing. But if I were to kind of say, our general approach in talking with brands is meet your consumers where they're at, get them to the surprise and delight as fast as you can. Start with experience, not education.
And how, with the users, will the apps that they have on their phones, how would you be able to basically get all of them to be on board for this the signing in and all that stuff? How would you? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's so that we're facing with a lot of the. We have about 50 apps on average in our phones, and I think in a few years we'll have maybe 100, 120. And they're all sort of mishmashed. So people are trying to get some user experience, as you mentioned, to get some kind of a feeling that when you're logging in or you have some space that's yours and not just a vast array of all these apps, even if you can log in, which is brilliant. But that's the sort of, I think, where things are going to go. Everybody's going to have some form of super app, micro apps on their phone and be able to have those within that umbrella. That's
sure. And I agree that super apps are awesome, right? So I spent a lot of time in China. WeChat's probably the best known super app. Alipay is a super app. I spent a lot of time working with Paytm in India, which would be kind of a super app inside of India. And those are phenomenal once you get them. Our thought is until you get there, you still have to have a way to engage with all these ridiculous and silly apps that we have to still log into and be able to do payments. And so, our approach to onboarding a user is, actually it's for our onboarding process, it's click on a link or scan a QR code. It's going to pop up whatever messaging app you use, right? So right now it's text messaging or WhatsApp. You're starting on our page, right? So we kind of have, when you're your starting point, you're sending us a message, which is important from a security perspective. So we're not just sending out these, 5-digit codes, you're actually sending us a message. We send you a link back right in that same window, which you then can click on, which then launches you into the brand's app, if you will, right? Whether it be native or web. As a part of that process, we use OAuth to log them into the brand, but then they immediately also have a wallet and an NFT. So our experience, say you're wanting to give someone an NFT. They're at an event, it's a live event activation. They could scan a QR code and the message is, hey, great, send us a message and we'll send you a secure link to log in, right? So they send us a message, we send a link back. On the back end, what we're doing is that QR code is actually saying, I want to claim this particular NFT. So we'll spin up a wallet, put the NFT into the wallet, send the link back, and then get launched into the brand's app. We also allow, if you want to connect a MetaMask or Rainbow, or you have a traditional wallet, you can connect that as well. But then our API for the brand says, hey, who's the user holding this phone right now, right? And that's our process. Okay, we know this phone number, this phone belongs to these wallets. Here are the NFTs that they hold. So a user can experience a token-gated surprise without even spelling NFT. They don't have to spell Web3. Like they get straight to the experience.
Users, how would they come into the app? Like how would they come into the sense that they would actually go on the code and click on it? How do you engage them with that? Do you?
So it depends again what the entry point is. So if it's on a brand's website, so we're not going direct to consumer. We're working through the brands to say, hey, if you're wanting to engage the 98 or 99% of the world who don't have or aren't crypto native, here's a really simple and seamless way that they can still get a wallet and NFTs. So again, it's one text message and they're onboarded. They feel like it's log in with a link, right? Which a lot of folks do now. I'm going to send you a link to log in. So it feels like log in with a link, and then everything else is behind the scenes for the user.
Okay. I think, Mark, you took over from questions. So I think another question that we cover, which is how Redeem works. Brilliant. Okay. So now I'm going to have a question for Toby related to Mark. So we make it very interesting. So what do you think about SuperApps? I mean, you mentioned that you have done some work in China and, they kind of work very well in centralized country. What is holding on kind of like super app onboarding in Western country? What is the recipe that can actually make super app going viral in the West, in the US, in Europe?
Yeah, well, if I had that perfect recipe, I think I would be out trying to execute it. It is hard. The US has historically not moved towards super apps. I think a number of folks have tried. A lot of folks thought kind of with Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp that they were going to move to a super app. They really have not been able to do that for a large part. Though if you're in countries like the Philippines, the penetration of Facebook in the Philippines is incredible. Like it dominates everything. And so in Philippines, Facebook would be kind of like a super app. To your question though, like how do you get that started? It is a network effect, right? So what are the first few apps? Oftentimes they're either around communication or payment, right? So you think WeChat started really as a chat messaging, a social networking. Facebook in the Philippines would be the same. Alipay took a payment perspective, a payment approach. So I would say if you look across kind of the world, I would say it's either payments or social and messaging tend to be the universal network because I want to talk with Mark, I want to talk with Steffy. So therefore we have to have a path to communicate, or I want to pay someone. And so that ends up being the network effect. And then they build in more and more their microservices, the micro businesses, and other things get plumbed in around. But historically, I think those are the only two that I've seen. But again, my guess is Mark is far more knowledgeable in that space than I am.
It's a valid point. I mean, if you're saying you're going to build a super app and somebody says you're crazy, you're going to compete against WeChat and those apps. That's not the goal because they have obviously they had incentives to use the app. There was government. Mm-hmm. There was massive. I think 95% of all the transactions on the apps are done through WeChat in China, if I'm not mistaken. When you go to India, for example, there's Tata Consultancy. They have a lot of hotels. They have a lot of banks. They have a lot of telco companies, and they actually engaged Amdocs, which is our competitor in the telco, to build them a super app for all of those apps, all of those sectors that they have. And you can actually use the Tata Now super app to use it for buying tickets, for buying getting a loan, for example, in the bank. So all of these are actually the trend now is to have one place where you can actually get benefits, not just to have to go to the booking, to have to go to separate different apps, and have it in one place to actually engage your customers. We find that with the telcos, that's our step. That's our niche, to actually have the telecommunications, having the connectivity. So there's a very interesting topic now for MVNOs, which are mobile virtual network operators, which we have the platforms. A lot of the like Tesco mobiles are running on. There's no platform for Web3 for the generation. There's traditional, this big grocery stores, and then they can brand as a mobile operator because they have all these users, all these customers, right? It's very easy for them. But what about like a famous rapper or event or something that would actually provide the connectivity for going to their, with the NFTs, going to their events and have the actual MVNO as theirs. So the Web3 could be, a Snoop Dogg EMG super app kind of thing, which they're actually getting the connectivity from the telco operators. And we're actually speaking to quite a few now that are very interested in this concept that's not really been adopted out there. And something, for the generations, the younger, which are only using the Web3, are only used to that. So there's a possibility now really to use that. And that's sort of the offshoot of the super app that we're looking at, so.
Okay, so that was great, Mark. And then kind of like following up on that, let's talk a little bit about NFT utility, because, sometimes you can probably offer ticketing without the NFT, right? So, but now we are NFTing everything. So what do you see, you, Toby, and you, Mark, the kind of like use case where the NFT is kind of making the difference and is actually needed because it provides another level of engagement, experience, verification, I'm just, throwing up a few things, but
100%, yeah. Go ahead, Toby.
Yeah, so I think where you're trying to have, so the NFT and Web3s are powerful in two scenarios. One, when I need multiple parties to engage around a common consumer, but I don't want to have to do point-to-point integrations with everybody who wants to engage with that consumer, right? So ticketing is an easy example of you buy a ticket to get in the door, but people want to do pre-event engagement. They want to do at-event engagement. They want to do post-event engagement. That could be sponsors. That could be the artists themselves. It could be lots of other folks that want to engage with this consumer because they bought a ticket, right? So in that scenario, you've got a number of different entities wanting to engage with a common consumer, but they need to know this is the consumer that actually has the ticket, right? So that's kind of the example of that's where NFT utility, one example. The other example we're seeing is when you're trying to cross major channels, right? I'm trying to go from physical to digital to like a metaverse or to something kind of an AR, VR. So those are fairly difficult to be able to transfer. And so being able to use an NFT, and I'll give you a couple of examples. So one of the projects that we've done that we're really excited about, actually we'll be able to be more public about it soon. We've done the internal demos and use cases with our clients, and they're loving it. But it's an AR experience where you walk into a luxury brand, you kind of scan, hey, let's go on an AR experience. Right, you scan the QR code. It's all web-based. So it comes up, and what you're doing is you're looking for an object around the store. As soon as you see it, these different AR objects pop up. And you literally put your hand into the screen, pull it towards your device, and what you're doing is actually adding NFT to your wallet. But super clean, super seamless. What they do when they add that to the wallet, they can either do it on every NFT or after they get 2 or 3, then it launches them into the brand's website, right? And now they do an NFT token gated experience because they're automatically connected. We're doing kind of the OAuth into the brand's web or the brand's app. So the user experience is I went from AR, augmented reality, basically direct to engaging with a brand, but it happens to be an NFT. Right? So take that one step further. What we are seeing now with Nike and a number of others, those things are now showing up in Roblox. They're showing up in Epic Games. They're showing up in video games. I collected something in the real world, whether simply scanning a QR code or doing a kind of an AR experience, where not only does it give me a differentiated digital experience on the brand's website with kind of token gating of digital content, I can now go into somebody else's ecosystem, into the video game itself, and I have shoes or I have different things. And conversely, what you'll see is the reverse. I take an action in a game, I get an NFT in my wallet, which then I can then go to either a brand's digital or physical store and be able to get some sort of perk or experience reward from that. So crossing major channels and kind of multi-party engagement around a user is, I think, where that utility, again, nothing to do with buying and selling. I'm not trying to get on a secondary market. I don't care about those things. I want a new experience that's centered around me.
Yeah, digital collectibles in essence is huge, right? For a lot of the e-commerce, I think it's very important also to have a brand which they can actually use the NFTs for, even a loyalty rewards program. It could be for through smart contract NFTs for telcos. So we're actually looking at that as well. So instead of getting the typical applications that give you the rewards, you can actually have the NFT engaging them, invite them to special events, to have them, get them discounts on specific campaigns, and this all can be done through the NFT. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying the NFT is the word association.
We've got to get away from it. I agree.
Yeah.
So it's funny.
If you look at actually the Starbucks campaign with Polygon, they did not use the NFT word there. It was all digital collectibles on purpose. So
it's a stamp. Yeah, it's a journey and a stamp.
You come up with a different word.
Well, I think what we'll end up is getting very verticalized descriptions, right? So if I ask the last time you listened to an MP3, you're like, wait, what do you mean an MP3? You're like, well, you're doing it right now if you're listening to this video. It's an MP3, it's an MP4. That's simply the file format. Like, we don't call podcasts by their file format or the protocol. Like, stop calling things like digital collectibles and a digital experience or a digital certificate or a credential or a key or a membership card. These are all just simply digital representations of things. So I totally agree. We've got to get away from, stop calling things by their technical protocol names.
So, right, you mentioned a couple of things about that brings up to me the problem about security, because you are kind of like linking a crypto wallet to a mobile phone, and the brand send you a link and you open up there. I mean, there are a lot of risks about security, and I think, Mark, you see the same with your super app. So Toby, how are you going around the problem of scams, the problem of hacking, phishing, and all of that with your app to make sure it's secure as possible to protect people as well entering this Web3 crypto space?
Sure, and it really kind of comes in two directions. So there's how do you protect the brands from fraud? Like, how does it not a bot? How is it not someone who's stolen consumer data that they're trying to now kind of forge and be a kind of a fraud in that perspective? And then there's the other is how do we stop phishing and kind of the clickbait that's out there as well? And they're two very hard problems, right? The Web2 world has continued to struggle with this. On the fraudster side, on the going into the brand side, we probably spent a lot of time focused there, because the cool thing about a phone number is you can tell what line type it is. Is it a virtual number versus a physical device, right? Is it AT&T, a T-Mobile, a Deutsche Telekom, a Verizon? And then from that, you can prompt for a biometric, right? So this idea of you have a proof of humanity to a phone number that's a physical device with a country code on it, right? That alone is massive for so many of the folks that we're talking to. But again, this is actually even a traditional Web 2 problem, right? So brands are saying, hey, we can use this kind of thing. And they also now have a wallet, and which in some ways almost serves as kind of cookies, right? So there's not just a cookie. It's I've expressed a specific interest. I've attended this event. I grabbed this AR object. I went to these different places. The reverse side is a little bit harder, and honestly not something that we're specific kind of. How do you help avoid clickbait? That's education, and that's the helping them. Don't click on every link that comes. So we never send outbound text messages, right? So I don't want to represent we're not a SMS platform at all. We send basically one login link, and that's it. After that, we bound the device. We don't send any more text messages. And so the other areas is not really coming to our purview as much.
Yeah. How do you find that which network they're actually on? Because it's you can get the fake prefixes. You can get somebody's actually using a Vodafone and they're not actually using the Vodafone. Do you use that from the operators, or how do you actually are you able to change that or see that?
Yeah, so one of the cool things that is, it took the telecommunication industry 10 years to get there, but they have GSM Connect ID and many of the programs where they're opening up their own APIs that you can call. And so you've got a much more of a direct line to validate a lot of that information around, is it a real carrier issued number versus a virtual number?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So Mark, in terms of security, what are your measures? What are you doing to kind of
we're using a non-custodial wallet, which is not owned by us. It's actually self-custodial, and they're able to do the transaction through that. For the B2B part, it's taken care of by the operators. They're basically for the on-ramping, off-ramping of fiats, that's all done by them. The security and all the things around that is usually done in a traditional way, which is by the operator themselves. For us, we're very used to even delivering for financial institutions. Some of the applications we have strict testing, developing of all our applications going through these procedures that we need to endure, and we have strict SLAs when we deliver our products. So it's always something that we adhere to, that we need to be at the forefront and making sure that we don't have any hacking or any of that stuff. But for us, it's more of a decentralized kind of concept for that. So we're not really looking at I had an issue with one of the Exodus wallets, and they said, I called them out, well, actually, we're decentralized, so you need to, look out for yourself. And that's not the way we look at it. We're trying to work with if there is any fraud. But in a way, it is like you're enabling two transactions, or a transaction to go from through the actual non-custodial wallet or through people on our platform. And that's something where, that's what we're doing. So.
Well, obviously it is a challenge, but it is also a very interesting challenge to kind of get the old generation to embrace Web3. So, I kind of get your point, right? All the new generation, young people, they're all Web3 friendly, they've got wallet, that's great, Specifically to Toby, is your approach also valid for the old generation? Are they an audience for your product? Because, like my mom, my grandma, are they going to be a potential customer of these brands' new ventures into Web3, or how brand can actually gate that kind of generation, which is not, our generation, the younger generation, but it's the oldest one. They maybe are still client,
Sure. Well, I would argue even, I think sometimes we get into our own little echo chamber, right? Like, I would argue there are actually a ton of folks out there that don't understand Web3. They think Web3, they think crypto Ponzi scheme, right? So they don't have a positive association. So I think even the younger generation, we need something that's familiar and known to them. And everybody, again, I'll tell you everything. Every single one of those people do have a phone number. They may or may not have a wallet, or they may not know they have a wallet. So for those that aren't yet familiar with it, giving them a really easy on-ramp. It's funny, I actually pressure tested this with my mom, who's now 77, right? So she's up there in age. And I was like, hey mom, do you know any 10-digit numbers off the top of your head? And you're like, no. Like, what about your phone number? It's like, yes, Toby, of course I know my phone number, right? And like, well, do you know anyone else's phone numbers off the top of your head? It's like, well, no, they're all in my phone. Right. And my mom texts everything. Right. And I showed her kind of QR code. It's like, hey, when you see one of these, what do you do? Like, oh, I pull my camera out and I click on the little yellow thing that comes up. Right. So they're already trained for these things. I think we need to use the existing behaviors and mental models to let them get straight to experience. Right. So they're not going to understand the protocols. They're not going to understand a lot of the underpinnings. I mean, we have to make it that easy today. Again, as they get more sophisticated, as they really get fully into the full Web3 world, then you're right, it will be fully non-custodial. They'll understand all those pieces, but we've got a lot of years to go to be able to get to that spot.
Mark, what are your
my thoughts on that is definitely it's the seamless journey has to be seamless in essence. Nobody cares what blockchain, if it's layer 1, layer 2, if it's Polygon or whatever. They just want to get that, do something with it and not having to worry about all of those things around it. And once we get there, I think that's when we'll be in a good place because, still like 6 months ago for MetaMask, if you want the Polygon, to Google it, get all the information, put it in there yourself. It's not very user-friendly, and I think that's, for mass adoption, we need to have that. We need to have that seamless kind of onboarding, and that's definitely somewhere where we're still not at, but, working on to get there.
Yeah. So, question for you. Most of the brand, they have been deploying on Polygon, right? That's kind of gather most of the interest. And it seems to be, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, the kind of preferred chain for brands to deploy. Now, why is that? It's still there because, we are 2023 and Polygon has some challenges as well. Is Solana still a thing? I see like a coming back of Solana. They set up a big squad here in the UK. They are going out of conference and the user experience that Solana provides is quite impressive as well. So what are your thoughts on the chain? They are actually the place for brands to build on or to work with.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark. I'll let you take this first.
This is actually Solana phone here.
Yay!
No.
You also work on
we're not there yet. No, Polygon. Yeah, I mean they did amazing things. I think they went the right direction. I'm not sure if it's still the same kind of focus or if it's just more on the gamify. More and more, and getting the adoption for for telcos. I know that they're with I think they're with Deutsche Telekom as well, and with Telefonica. But in the sense they're with, so they're using the blockchain for their testing of through their hub testing the blockchain. There's no like massive adoption of it within the telco. Overall, Solana, I mean, you've heard about the actual outages that go out there. Why would, a North American person actually buy, or from wherever, buy the Solana phone with online network? Is it going to get benefits? Is it going to be better than 5G? Is it going to be cheaper? These are kind of questions that I'm not sure if they are able to answer. Other than that, it's cool and it's it's using this. I think it's great, the nodes and everything, but it's still not sure what the benefit would be for some user, other than having some Web3 features, which you can download an app for Web3, not have the whole. So yeah, for me, I think they're still not the favorite blockchain to get mass adoption. Polygon is doing good things, and we are using Polygon. And for Solana, it's still good things hopefully will come. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, again, especially when the kind of context is brands and use cases, I don't think the chain things are running on is stopping or starting brands from being successful. Like, I think brands are trying to focus on what's the user engagement, what's the surprise and delight, what's the value add that the users get. Polygon and the brands that are working are trying to minimize risk everywhere. Like so many brands I'm talking to, the amount of money they spend, especially big companies, they spend on legal and much time they spend on legal. It's like, wait, are you sure this is not a security? Am I ever going to get called by the SEC? So there's a lot of concern. So they're looking to minimize risk wherever they can. And right now, Polygon's kind of the safe bet. That's where everybody's going. Because they used to say about IBM, nobody gets fired for hiring IBM because everybody else hired IBM. So I feel like right now, Polygon, they've got they're doing good stuff, but they got the momentum right now. Solana is going to be here. A number of the other folks are still going to be here. Definitely, we're still early on in the game, but Polygon definitely has the momentum at the moment.
I mean, Bugatti launched an ordinance, so that's kind of an interesting place to go. Anyway, you brought up the point about regulation, so let's go into this topic because you are a brand, you are launching an NFT, and even for you, Mark, you are including NFT in your super app. What are the implications for brands? What you should actually be careful because before you kind of go full steam into an NFT campaign. What are the implications that perhaps maybe are questions they don't have like firm answer right now, but where regulation is going, what are the concerns basically?
I'll take that. My perspective is probably a little bit US centric. To probably pay a lot more attention kind of the SEC and a lot of the big brands we're talking to, European and US, but everyone seems to be looking to the SEC right now in the US. And so the basic premise I think a lot of these folks are going with is if I can give you a digital asset, an NFT, and there's an expectation that it's going to go up in value and you can sell it on a secondary market, brands are concerned, right? Because to some degree, look at how we test is the idea I'm going to buy something and I expect it to go up in value that I will sell at a later point in time through no effort or improvement of my own, and I'll make a profit. Like that's kind of the definition of a security. So a lot of things that we've been doing with selling in these secondary sales in these markets of I'm going to do an NFT drop. People are going to buy them, not for any utility other than I hope they go up in value.
Yeah.
People are scared. And that's what brands are like, in fact, I've talked to a number of brands, like we don't want to allow the NFTs to be allowed to be sold. Like we can't allow, in fact, their legal won't let them do things if the NFT can be sold on a secondary market. So they love a lot of the other things they can do in collaborations and kind of this composability and being able to go into Fortnite. And so that's the stuff right now they're really excited about. Now, again, we can all argue, hey, people buy and sell stuff all the time. It doesn't mean it's a security. It doesn't need to be registered. But there is a heightened sensitivity right now because of the SEC. So we see brands leaning very, very heavily into utility. Where their legal teams get concerned is when those NFTs that are being issued by a brand end up on secondary markets that are going to get bought and sold with an expectation of prices going up.
That's a problem, definitely. It could be actually a collectible. You could have the first, Walmart, some kind of token, not token, but some kind of coupons. And you can actually sell those. Is that a security? I guess not. The reward program for the loyalty rewards, that's for sure easy to use as an NFT. There's no reason why that can't be. If they were to sell the NFTs after, especially in the States with the security thing, it's very, very difficult. Yeah.
Sure. And I think that some of those examples are okay because, again, I'm not one acquiring these tokens because I think it will go up in value, right? I'm giving, hey, here's 10 points for whatever reason, and I can trade 10 points for something else. And I don't think that one's as much of a concern. But I will say, again, I've been surprised at the number of brands I've talked to that are they're gun shy. And the Web3 teams would love to go do it, but their legal teams are just putting a huge kibosh on it.
Difficult, definitely. Yeah.
That's why, thinking about utility is really, really important. You can't just, drop. And I mean, even though there is a lot driven by speculation. But I think on this topic, it's quite interesting when you start to get in conversation about NFT rental. So like yesterday, I was having a cool discussion with a platform. They actually allow you to put your NFT there so somebody else can rent it, and you as the owner earn 50% of the value the NFT is creating by the new, the borrower in another platform, that especially for games. But, that's something that, it could happen. And how do you stop that? How a brand can actually stop what is going to happen next with this NFT is kind of like, it's not so easy, really.
But if you're just a platform, actually, that you're enabling that transaction to take place. So if I want to sell some NFT and then it's sold there, but you don't actually hold that NFT, or you don't have the actual the money, you're not transacting with that. You're not the custodian of that. I think there's no way they can control. There's nothing to. It's something that will always happen. I think it's hard for the brands to say, okay, if this is a collectible, this first Starbucks NFT, and it's going to be worth $500,000, somebody sells it. I mean, is it a security?
Right. I would argue no.
I mean, from there, I don't think they have to, worry about that. But.
So, question: do you think we are going to see another NFT summer? As we are going towards the halving, so usually kind of crypto picks up, and maybe we are going to have another cycle. Who knows? You read the charts, and then you kind of start to make your mind up. Do you think the NFT market has kind of like stabilized, where people are really looking at the utility, and you're not going to see all this big jump in price just on speculation, or do you think the NFT market or the NFT industry is still going to be related to the crypto volatility?
I'll answer that. Try to just. I mean, for the JPEG kind of the images, or that was traded for the NFTs, how they started. I think that's behind us. I think it's more of the the utility of it, in essence, that you can actually use it for getting to a concert, having the special VIP section open up for you, getting to go to the next concert, having a preview of this, having this interaction with your with the event or with your fans. If you're a famous person, then you could use that in that sense. For that will become very, I think, used. But for the way that it started, just to have like a trading of insane prices for these pictures, in essence, I don't think that's going to come back, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it will. I don't think it'll go away, but you think about trading cards, collectibles happen today in the physical world, right? But as a percentage of the GDP, it's tiny, right? And so I think it will be out there. It'll be small in comparison to so many of the other amazing things that we'll be able to do with NFTs. So I think it will. I think it will shrink in overall volume, and I think in comparison to the overall things that are happening, there will just be so much other stuff that it will kind of continue to decrease in the attention that it gets, because there will be so many other utility and use cases happening.
Yeah, so that's a great point to go to the last question, which is about AI. And I mean, this is kind of like the big buzzword at the moment. So I would like to ask you both how AI can help brands and also your product to kind of offer something different. Of maybe you have already been looking at integrating AI within, your product.
I'll go first.
Great, Mark.
Yeah, we just have a little fun stuff, like you have your profile, you have the image, you can have the avatar, and you can set up through AI. You can have a special kind of avatar set up for you. You can have questions, answer kind of thing, which we're already enabling within the app. So you can use that to engage people, and I think it's going to be used for more and more. Of course, we're not focused so much on the AI as everybody else is, but definitely something that's we could use some parts of it to engage people with some special features that they might like. Yeah.
Yeah, as far as kind of a consumer-facing AI pieces, honestly, not a ton for us. I think where we are getting some interesting questions around kind of proof of humanity or proof of who created the content, right? So when you kind of think about, hey, there's so many bots, so many things that are creating content or doing things online. Like if you tie that back to a physical phone that someone biometrically signed a transaction to allow that thing on, like, that's actually pretty, like, yeah, that wasn't a bot, that was a real person. So that angle, yes. But yes, in some ways we're just trying to we're a boring company. We're trying to reduce friction, make it a little bit easier to onboard, and build bridges into these various ecosystems. At the moment, not a ton of AI.
Okay, that's one thing. Using AI to see if a video or an image is actually fake, right? If it was produced in a way that's one way of maybe it's going to be billion dollar idea. I just threw it out there. But some kind of that could be interesting tools like that for sure.
Identify the deep fakes.
Yeah, I mean, like all of these images, are they actually real? Are they fake? And having an AI tool that everybody
you
can use.
need to add that in the SuperApp, Mark. Add it, because
somebody's going to use it now and become a billionaire, right?
Yeah. Just for the app within the SuperApp. No, it's brilliant. Listen, thank you so much for coming on the show. And before we go, Toby, just tell our viewers, where they can go to check out your product, and also any brands watching, if they want to try out a way to get to Web3 in a seamless way, how they can get in touch with you.
Sure. No, thanks, Steph. Yeah, so if you go to redeem.xyz, you can actually try the demo yourself. There's kind of a try it now up on the menu. You can go down, you can scan a QR code that's going to let you onboard, creates a Polygon wallet, throws an NFT into that wallet, gives you a link back. There's a couple kind of examples there on their website. So yeah, very, very demoable. Just redeem.xyz. You can hit me on Twitter, LinkedIn, most of the Telegram, just Tobias Rush.
Mark, and you, where people can go for the $1 billion super app?
For the $1 billion, I'm not sure for that one yet, but you can go to the Android to download it on the Google or on iOS, Apple. It's EMG Super App. It's very easy, EMG, and then Super App, and our website is emggroups with an s.io, so you can get a lot of information there. And for the Twitter and those, I think that's EMG Coin. I think that's the Twitter handle there. And for me, I'm a very long last name, so I'll maybe leave that. People can search me. So I'm the CEO and founder, but it's Mark Bystriansky, and I'm on LinkedIn. I think there's not too many of the Bystrianskys there, so you can find me easy.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a brilliant conversation.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.